This video lecture is devoted to the broad concept of business etiquette and its importance in business setting. Business etiquette encompasses the set of unwritten rules and expectations for behavior that facilitates interaction in the business world. Understanding and adhering to proper business etiquette can help individuals and organizations build better relationships, enhance communication, and foster a positive professional environment. In this video lecture, we are going to consider some key aspects of business etiquette, which include appearance, communication with business partners, interaction with colleagues, and building network and relationship. Also, such essential components of business etiquette as cultural sensitivity, dining and handling conflicts are going to be discussed. Taking into account the digital footprint in all spheres of life nowadays, etiquette within digital environment has to be acquired as well, and it is going to be discussed here too. The first key point to consider relates to professional appearance. It is essential to adhere to a company's dress code, whether it is formal, business casual, or casual. Dressing appropriately shows respect for the workplace and the people you interact with. Grooming has to be maintained as well, and it is quite important to look neat. So the following key point relates to communication. And here we are talking about email etiquette, when the use of a clear and professional tone is a must. Such elements of formal writing as addressing recipients properly, using a concise subject line, and avoiding the use of slang or overly casual language have to be taken into account. Phone etiquette is also on the list. It is important to answer calls promptly, introduce yourself, and speak clearly. Also, being mindful of one's tone and avoiding multitasking while on the phone are points to remember when communicating over the phone. When we refer to meetings, one has to be punctual, prepared, and attentive. Following the agenda, contributing to the meeting appropriately, and avoiding dominating the conversation will create a good impression. When it comes to meetings, special attention has to be paid to the concept of time, which differs depending on the country. In this case, we have to talk about monochronic and polychronic cultures. Monochronic cultures imply focusing on one thing at a time, without distractions or interruptions. Schedules and sticking to them is highly important, as are previous commitments. Once a plan is made, it is followed through, and changes to those plans will be taken very seriously and viewed as an inconvenience. Polychronic cultures, in their turn, tend to do many things simultaneously. Basically, the culture is built on multitasking. Interruptions are not really seen as interruptions. Time is regarded as spatial with polychronic cultures, where deadlines and schedules are not strict. Plans can be changed and flexibility is valued. Explicit information might not be required. That is the reason they cultivate networking. Polychronic cultures are relationship-oriented, and it is something that their work depends on. Let's take a look at examples of monochronic culture, which include such countries as the USA, the UK, New Zealand, Canada, Australia. And let us have a closer look at the way time is seen in the USA. For Americans, time is tangible. It can be spent, wasted, saved, or lost. For Americans, time is fixed and measurable. Schedules are of high importance. Time is limited because there are many things to do. Americans have to constantly be on the move. They are always in a hurry, and they live a very hectic life. So American time is monochronic, but in a deeper sense, American time is both polychronic and monochronic. And time dominates the official world of business, government, professions, entertainment, and sports. However, at home, particularly the more traditional home, in which women are the core around which everything revolves, one finds the P time takes over. Overall, the USA is a short-term oriented country where short-term profit is emphasized. Merit is used to reward employees. Personal freedom and leisure time are highly evaluated. Time is controllable from the present. Now let us take a look at the examples of polychronic cultures, which are, for example, Argentina, Brazil, Italy, Spain, and countries alike. Characteristic features of polychronic cultures include human interaction and personal connection, group work, a holistic approach to doing business and to do things overall, flexibility, high context communication, and finally, a long-term relationship. The following key point relates to interactions with colleagues. Everyone should be treated with respect, regardless of their position. Polite language should be used at all times, as well as appreciation for others' contributions should be expressed. Confidentiality and discretion with sensitive information should be maintained. Finally, the last point is collaboration. A cooperative work environment should be fostered by being open to others' ideas and working collaboratively. Next point relates to networking and relationship building, and it is also considered to be one of the essential elements of business etiquette. Thus, what has to be taken into account is as follows. Introductions. When introducing people, relevant context about each person to facilitate the conversation should be provided. After meeting or networking events, follow up with a thank you note or email to express appreciation and reinforce the connection. That would be welcome. Business cards exchange is still relevant nowadays. Business cards as appropriate and received cards should be handled with respect, taking time to look at the card before putting it away. Cultural sensitivity is the next point to consider. When it comes to this issue, we should remember the term cultural awareness, which implies someone's understanding of the differences between themselves and people from other countries and other backgrounds, especially differences in attitudes and values. Cultural awareness is an important skill nowadays when it comes to multicultural business environment. Being culturally aware of cultural differences and showing respect to different customs and practices is a necessary part of business communication. Thus, it is recommended to learn about the business etiquette of other cultures if you are working in an international context. When we refer to cultural sensitivity, the following factors are implied. Understanding cultural differences and being aware of different cultural values, beliefs, and perceptions. Developing sensitivity and understanding of another ethnic group, which usually involves internal changes in terms of attitudes and values. And awareness and sensitivity also refer to the qualities of openness and flexibility that people develop in relation to others. As mentioned previously, digital dimension takes a considerable part of our lives nowadays, this way forcing us to develop certain rules of online communication, which can be referred to as digital etiquette or netiquette. It is explained as the rules of conduct for respectful and appropriate communication on the Internet and is often referred to as etiquette for the Internet. These are not legally binding rules, but recommended rules of etiquette. A professional image should be maintained not only in face-to-face communication, but nowadays also on social media. That is why be mindful on what is posted, as it can reflect on a person and an organization. If we refer to virtual meetings, then definitely they play an important role in work life nowadays, which means that virtual meetings should be treated with the same level of professionalism as in-person meetings. Being on time, dressing appropriately, and minimizing distractions have to be considered. Let's not forget about business lunches and dinners, when we also have to remember about the dining etiquette. When you have invited a business partner to a business meal, make sure to be clear about the purpose and who will be attending this meal. Proper table manners should be followed, such as waiting for everyone to be served before starting to eat, and avoiding talking with your mouth full. Finally, if you extend the invitation, you typically should cover the bill and handle payment discreetly. Business dinner etiquette is important because it shows that a person has manners. The way one acts at dinner can give others insight into the personality and level of professionalism. Since this kind of dinners is more formal than eating a meal with friends, one can demonstrate social skills by following etiquette guidelines. Then let's take a look at how to demonstrate proper business dinner etiquette. First, dress appropriately. The way you dress entirely depends on the occasion and type of restaurant you are dining at. For networking events or initial meetings with recruiters, dressing business casual is usually ideal. For an interview or client meeting, Dress in your nicest formal wear. If your employer makes the event seem more informal, wear something that would be acceptable for casual dress day. Number 2, arrive on time. It is good if you arrive around 5 minutes early. Showing up slightly early is respectful of the host and their guests. Number 3, make light conversation when deciding what to talk about. Be mindful of who you are with. If you are dining with someone you just met, then discuss light-hearted things like family or travel. Topics like religion, politics, and money may not be appropriate for most business dinners. The next point, remember the purpose of the dinner. Along with making friendly conversation, remember why you are meeting together. If it is a networking event, make an effort to talk about the work you do. Likewise, for an interview or client meeting, it is important to direct the conversation toward the agenda in the invitation. You may be able to discuss the important topics first and then enjoy the rest of the meal having a casual conversation. Next point, be seated properly. After sitting down, make an effort to maintain good posture throughout the meal. This means sitting up straight and keeping both feet on the ground. Keep your elbows off the table and at your side to ensure you are giving your neighbor enough personal space. Point 6. Eat when everyone gets their meal. It is polite to wait to eat until everyone has received their meal. If your host insists that you start eating, then it is okay to take a few small bites until they get their meal. Point number 7. Be kind to your server. When you are interacting with restaurant staff, always be courteous. The next point, follow your host's lead. Many of your actions can be based on what your host does. For instance, it is polite to wait to sit until they are seated. And finally, show gratitude to your company when the meal is over. Make sure to thank your host for inviting you. Likewise, let everyone know that you enjoyed sharing a meal with them. In networking scenarios, exchange contact information and business cards can take place at that point. The final key point in relation to business etiquette is handling conflicts. Mastering business etiquette helps create a respectful and efficient work environment. It enhances professional relationship and contributes to individual and organizational success. Here are some useful tips in order to handle conflict. First, accept conflict. Remember that conflict is natural and happens in every ongoing relationship, including business relationship. Since a conflict is unavoidable, it has to be managed. Conflict is a sign of a need for change and an opportunity for growth, new understanding, and improved communication. Conflict cannot be resolved unless it is addressed with the appropriate individuals. Then address the issue promptly. It is important to handle a conflict directly and professionally, with the goal to resolve the issue in the most efficient way. Next point is be a calming agent. Regardless of whether you are being a sounding board for a friend or you are dealing with your own conflict, your response to the conflict can escalate or decrease the intensity of the problem. To be calming, provide an objective or neutral point of view. Listen actively. It is essential to fully concentrate on the speaker, understand the message, and respond thoughtfully. Next, analyze the conflict. This will help clarify the specific problem. It is suggested to use a neutral language in this case. When people are in conflict, they use inflammatory language, such as profanity, name-calling, and exaggeration that escalate the conflict. Restate inflammatory language in a more objective way to help make the information less emotionally laden and more useful for future discussion. Next, try to separate the person from the problem. View the problem as a specific behavior or set of circumstances rather than attributing negative feelings to the whole person. This approach makes the problem more manageable and hopeful than deciding you can't stand this person any longer. Next, it is suggested to work together. It requires that each person stop placing blame and take ownership of the problem. Make a commitment to work together and listen to each other to solve the conflict. Moving on to handling conflicts. The first point here is from agree to disagree. Each person has a unique point of view and rarely agrees to every detail. Being right is not what is important. When managing conflict, seeking the truth can trap you rather than set you free. For example, consider the differing testimony of witnesses that all see the same car accident. Truth is relative to the person's point of view. It is more beneficial to focus on the future. In conflict, we tend to remember every single thing that ever bothered us about that person. People in conflict need to vent about the past, but they often dwell on the past. Often the best way to take ownership of the problem is to recognize that regardless of the past, you need to create a plan to address the present conflict and those that may arise in the future. To solve interpersonal conflict, it is important to share interests. Thus, all parties must talk about their interests or their whys behind their positions. They must share their true interests and work together to find a solution that satisfies both interests. Common interests, for example, for students, are to sleep, study, entertain, and relax in a comfortable atmosphere. Often their interests are more intangible, such as respect, belonging, friendship, and fun. When individuals have differing lifestyles, values, and schedules, the need to discuss their differences is critical in managing conflict. You must develop a balanced plan to give and take that satisfies everyone's interests. Next, be creative. Finding a resolution to the problem that satisfies everyone requires creativity and hard work. Be careful not to give in simply to avoid conflict or maintain harmony. Agreements reached too early usually do not last. Generate silly options to begin thinking outside of the box of original positions. Next, be specific. Problem solving should be very specific and clarify ambiguous terms that each person may interpret differently. Thoughts and ideas should be clearly expressed. And final point here, maintain confidentiality. Encourage others who are in conflict to deal directly with the person they are in conflict with. Avoiding the conflict and venting to others tends to escalate the conflict and fuels the rumors mill. If rumors are already a part of the conflict, encourage them to work out a plan to put an end to the gossip. This was the final key point of a broad concept of business etiquette. Overall, the concept is critical in fostering positive relationships, enhancing professionalism, and contributing to the overall success of an organization. This way, its regarded aspects should be carefully considered when communicating within business environment.